Running Sentences presents A Ball and a Chain. Episode 1. The Meetings. Former Hollywood starlet Eva and her marriage are trying to rebound her career by launching a brand new talk show. She wants to resume her place in the world that she thinks she has. Her husband Louis just wants to make her happy and tries to throw whatever money he can at the situation. This story is a work of fiction. Any names, business, characters, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, real situations, events, incidences, careers, people, etc. is purely coincidental. Story narrated and written by Michael Honore. Copyright 2023, Michael Honore. All rights reserved. Eva Peters sat on her bed, adjusting her bra for what felt like the millionth time this morning. She sighed to herself and worried that her clothes weren't fitting anymore, which meant there would need to be a crash diet in her future, and worse, not eating her favorite foods. Her husband, in pretty much name only, came bumbling in, looking about and frowned when he saw her. "Are you not dressed yet?" "Louis, you know I take my time to get ready." "Yes, but that is why I got you up early. You're the one who is excited for this idea and thinking it is the next great step in your career." She rose up and slipped on a shirt, still only semi-dressed, having not gotten to her pants or her underwear. She could already feel that this was not going to be her day today, which was a bad omen since they were proposing to launch a new show to a big network. "Give me a few more minutes, if you would." "Of course, but please hurry. This is all for you, after all." "Don't put pressure on me. Thank you very much." He shrugged and hurried out, leaving her standing there, slowly getting dressed. Eva continued to take her time, going through the motions and pulling out a hidden shoebox from under the bed. It was a good thing that their bedrooms were separate, otherwise there would be a lot of explaining to do about all the secret stuff in there. She tossed off the lid to reveal small packets of white powder inside, and she fished out a mostly empty one and began forming it into a line on the box lid, which she had put back onto the box once the little baggie was out. Things were quickly organized and the line disappeared in a matter of seconds. Louis sat on the living room couch, looking at the well-maintained room that looked used, but not too much so. He stared at the TV and got up to give himself something to do as he went over to it. Sure enough, there was a cover tape film that coated all electronics, and it was still on this TV. His hand reached out and played with a bit of the edge of it, and began pulling at the bottom of it, wondering if he should pull it off. A distraction came from his pocket as his phone vibrated, and he pulled it out to see a message about the stock market. In a flash, he had the phone lock screen gone and was looking over his stock accounts. "How are things going these last few minutes?" "Down, but not badly. Need to go up. What am I going to do if I don't get the money to make all these big things in Eva's mind happen? Dear, oh dear." His pacing about the room increased a bit as he waited for the lovely Eva to appear. 15 minutes lapsed before she emerged, sniffing her nose a bit and ignoring him. "You sound sick. Are you all right? We can call this off, you know. Apologies and all that, but the lovely star Eva isn't feeling well today. Do you want to do this another time?" She glanced over to him now and waved her hand to dismiss the idea. "I am fine. My nose is acting up, that is all. We should go, though, as I don't want excuses to be brought up as a reason for the executives never to meet with me ever again." "They would never do that." "They would. It's what the entire entertainment industry is built on. You show up or you don't. Anything else and everything else is but a distraction. Big enough distraction, you don't get hired for things. You don't show up due to small matters even though it's beyond your control, and they don't think anything of it when they have a million pretty boys and girls lined up to take your spot. We go. She moved down the rest of the stairs towards the door, with Lewis hurrying to get to it before her so he could open it up for her. He was still a bit preoccupied with his phone and seeing how his money was doing. He did get the door open for her, though. What is so important on your phone? Money? I need to keep track of the money I have to help you out with. We talked about this a lot of times already. In order to get this project running, we need money, so we need me to make money, and I have to pay attention to it. Yes, do keep your eye on that. The last thing I need right now is you letting me down as well. We already know the entertainment industry is going to do that. The drive over to the studio offices took up the rest of the morning, thanks to the usual traffic of not getting anywhere fast. Everyone wanted to get to work at the same time, with no regard for anyone else. Their driver did his level best, and got them there. They were kindly escorted up to the office waiting room, where the two sat on an ornate couch, waiting for something to happen. It wasn't a comfortable one, but things in these offices rarely were. They were set to look nice instead. Activity around the room was rather busy, with people coming and going, which Eva didn't like one bit. She kept staring at the people who got behind the secretary with ease. She kept refraining herself, which made the sofa squeak in response as she adjusted again. Are you sure you're all right? You're doing an awful lot of fiddling movement. I am fine. Don't keep asking me the same questions. It makes you look desperate, and these people can smell desperation. Oh, what does that mean? You will find out when they look at you. Remember, you aren't part of this industry, so they'll only look at you because of money. And because you aren't pretty enough to look at. A figure of a man approached them, looking rather harried as he came out from behind the secretary, with a tired expression crossing his face. It was obvious to Miss Eva that he was rather low on the food chain, but maybe a first point of contact for them, and they were going to meet more important people soon enough anyway. This man came to a stop in front of them, brushing his hand through his hair, and glanced upward, trying to recall something. All right, you were the couple pitching a TV talk show, right? Do you not know our names? The man sheepishly shook his head no, as he scratched at his chin. I've got lots of people with ideas that come and go like the wind. It's best to listen to the idea and nod along. So, what you got? Eva rose from the sofa, which squeaked, growling in her throat, and was instantly joined by Lewis, who tried to put his hand gently on her arms to try and help calm her down. Perhaps it would help if, you knew that this fine, amazing lady is Eva Love. She's Eva Peters now, but was known as Eva Love, the famed starlet from years past. She has a great acting career and is looking to shift to something new these days. That name doesn't ring a bell with me. I don't have much time to watch movies or TV. There are so many people coming to me with ideas that it's all I ever have time to think about, really. Perhaps, sir, you could be so kind as to get to know us and give us your name so that we can actually have a conversation? Oh, of course. I'm Ian Groton. Everyone pronounces it Groton, despite the no W being in my name, but it is what it is. Lewis turned and gave the man's hand a firm shake. Eva, though, continued to glare at the man and glower, trying to figure him out. She had not lost her looks, and she made damn sure of that. So having people look down on her because they didn't keep up with their film history, and not even history, but the not that distant history. This was not going to go well, she feared. I am Lewis Malcolm Peters, the person who is putting together this funds for this show. I am married to the lovely Eva. Barely. The muttering came out loud enough for Anne to look over at her. He might have caught what she'd said, but he didn't say anything if he did. Instead, looking about the place for any other person. Are you, Lewis, acting as their agent as well, or, just funding this? So, what you doing here, man? Oh no, we've been waiting for her agent to show up for a moment or two. Seems that everybody runs late in this business. A moment later, another harried-looking person came hurrying up, holding up a hand, which also happened to have their briefcase in it. There were a few papers sticking out of it, but they were firmly stuck in there, unable to escape being prisoner to this briefcase. Apologies for my lateness, but everyone knows how bad traffic in this city of entertainment is. No matter how much you plan, traffic always dictates that you're in the wrong lane and can't get out of it until it is far too late, and then you're halfway downtown when you wanted to be uptown. This, Mr. Ian, is my agent, Midnight Brown. Now there's a name I actually might have heard of. You work for one of the big agencies? That I do. One of the premier ones, and I can do lots of good for casting by bringing in clients if you help other clients. Well, that's good to hear. Shall we go to my office then, since you three seem intent on talking about this idea? He did not wait for a response and turned and began heading for the back, with the group now following behind him. They went through a variety of hallways deeper into this office space, and from brightly lit areas into darker ones that only the fluorescent lights kept them company, and everything wound up feeling depressed back here. After this walk about the area, Ian showed them into his office, a neat, tidy space with no personality and enough room for a few people, though not hospitably so. Ian went to sit behind the old metal desk while the rest of them sorted themselves out among the chairs that weren't far away from the desk. All right, to make sure that we're all on the same page, you're here to pitch the idea for a show. What exactly is the show you're going to be pitching, and how is it different from everything else and anything else already out there? Midnight slapped her hands together and stood up, despite having just sat down. We know that talk shows have their ups and downs. They are a great form of cheap entertainment during the days and expensive at night. But what no one has ever managed to really do, and it is an interesting idea, and I'm sure many executives would like to break up some stuff during the middle of their drama hours, is put one talk show in the middle of prime time. Well, that happens for a good reason. People like their dramas. Yes, everyone is scared of breaking up their money-making shows, but we present a chance to break that mold. We want to shock and awe away the people, create something so unique that they have to turn in. My client is the perfect person to do that, and your audience will never know what hit them. The doubtful gaze of Ian shifted from the agent, Midnight Brown, to Eva, who still glared annoyed at the man. After all, he had the audacity of not knowing who she was. And how would that work, by the way? Guests, musical numbers, pranks, pretend we're putting it on like a TV soap drama during the night. It's pretty simple, really. Yes, as my wife points out, but we'd be doing it cheaply, of course, with us fronting most of the money at the beginning. And then once, how things will go, and then once we all know how things will go, and of course we capture the audience we seek, funds will come in from other places. And then that will work for both of us as a money-making gig, since the profits will be so high. Think of all of the advertising dollars, and done so on a cheap show. We have no shame about pushing products these days either, and, things could show up and disappear in a moment's notice. It's all very, very money-making oriented. I, though, would have a little shame in doing it, but you can talk to me about it. I know, darling, but all across the internet people hawk things and make good money for that. We kind of need to go with the trends if this is to happen, and we are willing to do that. Your husband is right on that front. You would definitely need to be, only partial husband. Right, sorry. But if you're willing to hawk things, it might be a good thing in the long run to do that, Miss Eva. I hear you. Now what I want to know is why are we meeting with someone who's so low down on the food chain of business? This low executive sat back in his chair holding up his hands in surrender and frustration, like he wanted to slow the conversation down. But Eva did not want that one bit. She wanted information. Now wait a second. My position here as a feeder producer. I have the wonderful job here at the studios of Nights and Dreams of looking at whatever comes in this door. You, well, famous or formerly so, need to go through my section since you didn't have a connection at this studio. We're making connections here, and everything can change in the blink of an eye, as you well know. That is all because I stopped going to those parties that producers and heads of studios throw so that they can rub elbows with other people, isn't it? Potentially, yeah. We may never know, though, since the higher-ups of the company move in mysterious ways, and I'm, a low person, as you pointed out, so I don't get invited to such things regularly. Okay, let's calm us down. We are willing to go through all of the efforts to make this happen. We just need a signal from the studio that it might be receptive to exploring things further, Mr. Ian. Yes, sir. Well, I will move it up along the line and see how my bosses react. It is certainly an interesting idea, and I wish the best of luck to you. Eva rolled her eyes as they all got up and shuffled out of the room. Out of the offices, they went towards their cars, with all of them feeling and looking a bit down at how that had gone. We still have a couple of studios we can pitch to, but that did not go well, no. It will all be the same, since no one owes me any favors. I could give favors, but they always end badly for former popular actors and actresses. You can give up. You wanted this so badly. Yes, I still want it badly. Her agent, Midnight Brown, began to drift away, not really paying attention to them, and headed for her own car. Lewis picked up on this, and gently as he could, tried to move Eva in that direction. You should go. It's good that you want that. You should go talk to your agent more about that. Nail down your pitch and details and so on, and then you can loop me in on the matter. He'd taken a few steps away towards the sidewalk. It did not escape her notice, and she came to a stop to stare at him. What are you doing? I need to do some work in my office. I know you want to talk entertainment, since that is the entirety of your life, and you hate knowing about my job, and I have to go to work. Fine. Run off and make money then. It's all you're ever good for. It is what's keeping us floating and not in debt. Plus, your whole dream about getting back into acting and onto the screen goes through me. It's gotta come from somewhere, so, at least be nice. Yes, I just wish it wasn't from you. Lewis felt a pinprick in the back of his mind of frustration and anger and things just building up. It was just there, and it was just poking at him, just annoying enough. And, it wasn't setting him off. He was really getting close to just yelling. I know you married me for my money to keep your dreams alive. I'm willing to go along with that. But don't rub it in my face all the damned time. With a disgusted look, she stormed off towards their car. It took a while for Lewis to get to his office. He felt tense shoulders hunched up as he made his way past his secretary into the nice space that made up his windowed office. Being one of the top partners of a venture firm tended to pay well, and that had perks, but it also added the stress of everything relying on you bringing in much, much money. Sully His secretary hurried in a second later.
Yes.
Has anything been going on with my partners?
No. There was a meeting about your proposal, but nothing solid came out of that from what I can tell.
Your spies are well informed?
Not without trading information.
He nodded to this. That's the way things go lately. And my investments to cover the losses that I've made, did those come through? Sully came forward with a tablet computer that had much information on the screen. It was handed over, and he idly scrolled through the information. All data headlines pointing downward, which made him tense up even more.
The reports look bad today, but there is talks of a rebound tomorrow.
Why did they drop today?
A billionaire made comments on social media, and with their ravenous following being rather idiotic, they went and sank a bit of the market.
Well, I don't own money until a month from now, so I have time, but it is shortening by the moment. I fucking hate that everyone wants money, and they want it from me.
Yes, sir.
You wouldn't happen to know a good masseuse or someone who is able to relieve tension, would you? The secretary shook their head no, and reached for the tablet to take it back.
Anything else?
Oh, yes. Is Daphne available to talk to?
She is at her office, I believe. I can...
Lewis abruptly turned and went out of the room. Eva, on the other hand, sat across in her agent's office, across from her, watching her do her work. It looked much like busy work that didn't involve any actual work. Midnight, though, seemed pleased with whatever her computer screen was telling her.
Okay, we have 6 more studios after the 2 we have already pitched to, and they will help us. So there's potential to get this off the ground.
Do any of them look promising, Midnight? Her agent frowned a bit while looking at the screen and then offered a mini shrug to her.
It's a bit difficult to say at this point. We should at least
go talk to them and see what they might say. You should also look at going to some of these parties. Reconnect with people. I know you hate them, but connecting with people is how this industry works. It's how most industries actually work. It's very frustrating. If you're not much of a talker, you sort of get fucked over. Yes, that will be considered. Perhaps you should get to contacting the people at those studios. I don't want to march up to any of these places unannounced.
Oh, of course we will. I was going to get on that in a few days. I'm waiting to see if the one we just visited will bounce back to us right away or, drag things out a bit.
Eva had her hand down around her lap with her fingers repeatedly tapping on her thigh out of frustration. Her agent was going to wait around and wanted her to do all of the heavy lifting of getting this potential show going. There really was no one to trust these days.
I do recommend not waiting around.
Hon,
Eva, I've worked in this industry for a while. We both know this industry. Sometimes waiting is good. And sometimes that means some other actor or actresses gets the part, since they're willing to bite and talk more. Or at least they're willing to tell their agents to do that. I'm telling you now that perhaps we should move a bit and bite a bit. Is that what you wish of me to do? At this point, yes. We need to make this happen so I don't wind up in debt to my dratted husband. And you don't want to be fired as my agent, and I want to be famous again. All of that won't happen unless we push for it. We all know that. Fine, I shall go do that if you agree to go to a party tonight. I know of one that's got some executives in it, and people will be surprised for you to show up, but they won't say no to a former starlet.
Eva nodded in her agreement to do such a thing as she sank in her seat, slipping a bit down it. She was not happy with any of this. Lewis knocked on the door and then entered before a reply could be given. A figure shot out from under the desk, trying to stand up straight as he walked in and looked at Daphne, sitting at her desk, looking over at him. Still not knocking, I say? I did, but I think you were having too much fun to notice if I was or wasn't. The gentleman who had been helping to keep Daphne happy tried to straighten himself out and moved towards the door. Lewis did not stand in his way and stepped aside to let the man out. "Why are you bothering me on my private time?" "There is no private time for a venture capitalist. We always work and play at the same time, even in the office, apparently." "We get what we can, darling." "Tell that to my wife." "Oh, great, you're still doing that stupid thing for her. What was it, a show? A TV show?" He came over and flopped into a chair across from her with a sigh. His eyes focused on the hidden brandy and whiskey that were covered by books against the wall, not far away from her grasp. Fake books, but one wouldn't know unless they tried to pull one of them. "Yes, we are trying to make a TV show. It's to help restart her career, which is why it is important. It's also why you're in trouble with the big partners, and I'm guessing that is why you're here and not in your own office. Are you looking to beg, borrow, or steal money to make things happen?" "As a backup, yes, all of that." She grinned at him as he looked over from his seat, simply rolling his head from one side to the next. "I have a couple of options that need some attention. Can make money through a bit of underhanded ways." "They are preferably not sexual in nature. I would rather avoid that since I am a married man. And, well, Hollywood is all about appearances, so I must keep up appearances for all to see." Liar, liar, pants on fire. Most of the time I wouldn't worry about such things, but it is the entertainment industry, and they love appearances. So at this point, it's quite paramount to make things look good. She turned in her chair, reorganizing herself to be a little more right for the office. Once done, she stared at the computer screen for a moment. "Is this a quick flash money job, or more long-term, or what exactly are you seeking out of all of this?" "Well, both, if I can pull it off. I can get money into short-term to cover long-term, and long-term to cover short-term. It's all good to me." A smile curled around her face. "And you aren't willing to?" "Appearances must be kept if I'm to be around certain people and executives. Once things are settled down, then maybe that route opens up again. But unless you have something that isn't near those kind of folks. In this town, good luck finding someone who doesn't know someone in the industry when you have that kind of money floating about. But I do have a choice for you, or a few choices for you, if you're interested." He sat up in his chair. "How bad is it?" "Have you ever seen a movie about swindling old people out of money?" "I might have, maybe. I don't remember." "I think it might be your best option." She said this looking over towards him with a rather dubious expression that said she wasn't sure he was going to go for it. "There are retirement homes that are good for plucking again, as long as you can come up with a convincing argument to separate old windbags from their money by putting it in your trust to make whatever you're making." "Why am I afraid I will have to wind up wooing old ladies and men?" She offered a shrug and a smile as he got up from his seat. "Also, how exactly does this have anything to do with being a venture capitalist? This was never on any brochure that was ever handed to me to convince me to do this sort of job." "Well, we do what we need to do, and you need fast capital, and that's all our job is, really, getting fast capital and making it appear in accounts. So, get the fast money, hand it off to someone else to try and make more money off of it. Come on, you already know all of this. Or are you actually going to go after some big fish this time? I remember hearing a tale of you being too scared from your secretary to do such things." "It's a good idea, actually, especially in the entertainment industry. You don't want to rip off the bigwigs there, but maybe foreign bigwigs, maybe they could be separated from their money, if you're not too scared." He frowned, nodded, and left. Lewis moved around to open the door for Eva, who impatiently sat there waiting for such a thing to happen. She was looking out the window of the car, out to a long driveway that inclined up to a fancy-looking house. Why there was executives and a family throwing a party at this rental estate was beyond her when there were so many better choices for such things. The door clicked open and she stepped out when it had fully opened, and of course Lewis had offered his hand to help her out. Out of the car she looked at the gate which separated the road and the driveway, and they carefully took a few steps towards it. Eva was waddling about a bit, having not worn heels in a little while, and she felt unnatural a bit. Which ones are we visiting again, and why did they choose this place of all places? They are the blues, and everything they produce turns to silver. The gate split open as they approached it and continued their journey upwards. It was not a fast pace, since the heels were hell on her ankles. Shouldn't we want people who turn things into gold? Silver seems like a downgrade for producers. As it was pointed out to me, silver is better for TV shows. People who touch gold often have misses that are often forgotten about. Those that have the silver touch, well, they tend to make things that keep going for a long time. As for why here, I don't know why they chose this place. It's here that it's being held. She made a face as they continued the long, slow walk up. The front door of the house came into view as they strolled, taking their time to get to it. Eva was grasping a hold of Lewis's arms now, and he didn't mind one bit as they approached and he rang the doorbell to the front door. It was then almost instantly opened by a middle-aged woman who was trying to age gracefully, but also keep up with the standards of beauty of society. There was a streak of grey in her blonde hair, while the rest of her looked well taken care of, enough so that it was possible to question if plastic surgery had or hadn't occurred. Darlings, it has been so long since we last seen you, Eva. Why have you spent so long away from us? Lewis watched his wife's face go from pained to a smile and rather happy look. It made him shiver, but he too offered a smile to their new host. Miss Helen Bluth, it has been a long time. I apologize for turning you down so many times. You know how it goes, though. One day you're in rehab, the next you aren't wanted for any movies or shows because you have a minor, bad connection. It takes a while to build yourself back up to be welcomed. Oh, of course, darling, and you have brought along a toy. Husband. The host looked surprised for a moment and then looked over at him with a shrug. Helen then stood to the side, letting them into the home, but she also kept eyeing Lewis a bit hungrily and made him a bit uncomfortable. They moved after a moment into the living room. Then they were soon followed by Helen as she swayed with a purpose into the room, showing off that she still looked good. She kept glancing over at Lewis, which made Eva wonder why she was doing that. She was well aware of the nature of the entertainment industry to try and take everything that someone else had, and for the most part she didn't mind that. But this woman felt hawkish, and, well, she kind of rather needed Lewis at the moment. What's been your big new secret project, Miss Helen? Helen stopped by the couch, surprised by the question, and turned to Eva. The secrets are meant to be kept, even in a loose-lipped industry such as ours. Things must be kept quiet until contracts are signed, since the public reacts all too much to news. The room had quite a few people in it despite the large size, and it spread out over the floor of this house. Helen continued to guide them through the maze of people towards a man, who, as they approached, he smiled at them with a fake, happy-to-see-you smile. Dick Bluth, it has been quite a while since I've last saw you. It's Richard, Miss Eva. What brings you to our little party after having not been to one for years? Take a wild guess.
So what exactly are you trying to create then, dear? We know you don't appear for no reason whatsoever, and to suddenly hear that you will be appearing is a rather suspicious thing, don't you think?
We're looking to make a TV show.
Yes, as my husband says, we are making a TV show and we are looking for ways to make that happen. We are looking for connections.
The couple shared a look that said something between them, which Eva took to mean not this again. She wondered how many people approached them with similar ideas. Well, I suppose that is interesting, at least.
It is a talk show.
Yes, as my wife Eva points out, but a talk show that is neither on during the afternoon or late night, or for that matter, a morning show either. We are looking to put it right exactly where it needs to go.
Well,
Helen did the math quickly.
That would leave you with a primetime show.
Yes, I will give you that as interesting sounding. Primetime talk show. Difficult to pull off well. A challenge that would push any producer to their limits. I think we need a bit of a quiet time away from the rest of these people. You two certainly have come up with an interesting idea. Follow me. They found their way to an empty home theater room, which was not set up to show any actual theater experiences. It being a rented home, all that was there was more for show than actual use. But they sat down in comfy chairs that were there and that were rearranged, which Lewis and Dick set about doing. Once the seats were settled and everyone was down in them, the discussion resumed. What are you looking to accomplish with this show, Miss Eva?
Well, to resurrect my career and show the world that my age doesn't define me.
The age-old story of fame for you.
It is a noble goal in the industry set on prettiness and pettiness. I do like your spunk, Miss Eva. Yes, and thank you. It is very petty industry, and I'm willing to push back.
We're not looking for money for the show, though it would be welcomed. What we're after is backing to help get ourselves noticed. Connections. And we think you two, with your silver touch, as you've been so acclaimed to have, will help us on that front.
You want me and my husband Richard to give you that little push?
Yes, hopefully, preferably, yes. The producer couple nodded to one another and seemed to be rather enjoying the little conversation. Lewis found himself leaning forward, trying to convey that he was eager, but still smart enough to know that appearances mattered, so he sat on the edge of his chair. Tell us, Mr. Lewis, what is it you do for work? Venture capitalist. I help find money and move it towards whatever needs it. I'm doing that with my wife's new show. You're doing that for this project? A bit, yes. Most of my own money is putting the whole thing together. And it's all to make my wife happy, of course. Honey, that is a bad idea. He looked to Helen questioningly, and then Dick, who was shaking his head, yes. If you're trying to lose money or launder it, then that's the way to go. I'm not saying don't put your own money into a show, but don't put all your money into it. It's why projects these days have 12 different producers and production companies all agreeing to work with one another. No one wants to lose all of their money on a gamble. And Dick threw his hand in the air as if he was rolling invisible dice as Helen nodded along.
Invest in the show, but let us take on some of the money costs. And find other people to also take on some of the cost.
Why?
Yes, why? This is supposed to be our controlled project. If you get money involved, then you'll have a bigger say, and we don't want you to have that much control. We want it.
As my wife was about to point out, Miss Eva, by bringing us aboard this project, you buy legitimacy, which you are looking for, and your connections. You get someone else pushing the bigwigs about it, and, well, if it's going to ever get picked up, you're going to need somebody like us to do that for you. So you're going to have to be welcome. You're going to have to be more welcoming of this idea.
We have years of experience negotiating and putting ourselves in the way of the studio to protect our products. In return, we get a say in matters. That's how we've always operated, and that's how we will continue to operate. We are offering that to you if you can continue to show us that this project is worth it.
You do know how this industry works, Miss Eva. It is a lot of giving and a little take unless you can go it alone. Judging by the fact that you're here, you cannot do that. You need us. Eva flinched and Lewis automatically reached for her hand to try and comfort her.
I know all too well how these things go, and in the end, all of these producers all manage to do a power grab at the same time, as if they know what's best for the show, or movie, or project. It rarely ends well.
Right, well, I guess we will think about your offer and hope for the best. Well, we will get back to you when we can, and probably we will probably look favorably upon it. Lewis was clenching at his wife's hand, trying not to squeeze it, and let her squeeze his hand instead to get her frustrations out.
Well, make sure you do so before running out of any studios to talk to, please. It would make our lives easier.
Rising from his chair, Lewis nodded affirmatively and helped Eva get up. She was still not happy, but getting her out of there seemed like a good idea. Hopefully they wouldn't run into any old friends of hers. Halfway across the living room, Eva found herself confronted as a middle-aged woman with a sloppy grin stood in her way. The gin and tonic, along with the smell of alcohol, gave her the sense that her former best friend, Clarice, was still the same person she'd always been.
Well, look at who's crawling their way back into the industry.
I have no time for this, Clarice. I'm heading home.
Always so eager to run off when there is a crowd. You have changed a little bit, dear Eva. I can guess that this is because you are married to this man next to you. I heard rumors, but you always swung about trying to get the latest flavor of whatever caught your interest. And now this. You're up to something, and you know what that means, don't you?
A snarl began to form on Eva as she glared at her former associate.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, of course you do, and we shall talk about it away from your new husband who I've heard rumored about.
With that, Clarice looped her arm around Eva's arm and began dragging her away towards the corner where stairs were. End of part 1 of A Ball and a Chain. Thank you for listening.